It's what I've always wanted.
Steve's got the stars.
Got a big old cushy chair. It's nice.
Today, Premiere Week keeps rolling with late-night legend Jay Leno.
How about that?
Plus Jordan Sparks. And coming Friday, Charlie Sheen and a performance by Leanne Rhymes.
It's all new and it's gonna be big.
And it's all on Steve.
New York, weekdays at 2 on NBC4, New York.
Are you ready to unapologetically unleash your bold and define your life, money, and business? Define You Radio class is in session with host the Southern Belle of Bold, Valencia Griffin-Wallace, brings you the stories behind the glory. Hear from women and men who decided that life didn't define them. They were going to define themselves. Pen and papers ready. Class is now in session.
Hello and welcome. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in to Define You Radio. This is your host, Valencia Griffin-Wallace. First off, I want to thank everyone who has supported me and Define You Radio as we come up on a year in June. Yay! I said 2017 is the time to unleash and crown up. Well, Define You Radio is doing the same. I have some big changes ahead, but not too much of a change, but enough that you guys are definitely going to see the unleashing in Define You Radio. So make sure you stay tuned and connected with the show so you can be part of unleashing in 2017. So tonight we are talking about J-O-Y, joy, with the author of Find Your Friggin Joy, and I hope I said that correctly,
yes,
Mrs. Belinda Farrell. She has an awesome book and an awesome website. It's www.hunahealing.com. I love what we are talking about tonight, taking personal responsibility for your joy. You guys hear that? That means you have to take responsibility for your joy. We often talk about healing and what we need to get rid of in order to do that. But when you lose something bad, I'll just say something bad, the best thing to do is replace it with something good. So if you've lost something or gotten rid of some habits, joy is definitely something that you can replace with, put in that place. You don't want to have any empty spaces. I know that's easier said than done, right? I mean, life can make you forget what it feels like to have peace or to be at peace, or better yet, to have joy. With that being said, let's welcome Belinda to the show. Belinda, why don't you tell the audience, well, number one, let's welcome you to the show. Hey, Miss Belinda.
Okay. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's just amazing that you have this opportunity to connect people like you do, Valencia.
Well, thank you so much. It has been a wonderful, joyous journey as I come up on a year. So I'm very excited about tonight's show. I don't think that I'm 99.9% sure, okay, that joy is not something that people really think about or talk about. It, we'll use terms like happy and, so on and so forth. So I'm definitely excited to hear about joy and taking personal responsibility for it, and definitely the book. So why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about you?
Well, I had to kind of find my joy again because, as you know, in the book, I lost a child. He took his life about 8 years ago, and, that puts you into a hole of grief, and I couldn't find any joy for a long time. And I had been learning and following the teachings of the ancient Hawaiians, which is called Huna. And that was working pretty effectively in helping me to regain mobility in my back again. I had been paralyzed. I'd been also a stunt car driver, so I lived a little bit in the fast lane. I was an adrenaline junkie for a while. And then finally I collapsed with herniated discs and nerve damage and was told I was never going to walk again unless I had surgery. And all this time I had been studying about how the Hawaiians could heal themselves and how the kahunas could put bones back together and things could shift, and there was no mental illness on the islands when people practiced these teachings. And it was all about self-forgiveness and taking personal responsibility for your life. And I'd been studying this for about 3 years, so when my back collapsed, I thought I didn't have an option. I didn't want to have surgery. I had no insurance, and my insurance companies had dropped me because I couldn't work anymore. So I had to really see if this really worked, and it did. I healed completely. My back realigned itself. I was able to walk. I had a whole different aligned spine after I'd finished with this process, and I outlined that all in the book. But then afterwards, I kept doing this for a while when my son passed away, and at the same time I also lost all my savings account in a Ponzi scheme. So I had no place to live. I couldn't even rent. I had to sell everything I owned. It was, somebody had pulled the rug from underneath you. And I had a friend that dragged me to a movie to see The Living Matrix. And in this film, I got to observe Dr. Eric Pearl, who was the founder of this Reconnective Healing. And I saw him do these 3 sessions. You didn't even touch this little boy who had cerebral palsy and was in a wheelchair. And after doing these 3 sessions, the little boy was out of the wheelchair and playing in the playground. And I just knew that I had to learn what that was and how to do it. I had not been excited about anything since Huna. So this was something that really stirred my emotions. And the first thing I did was get a session myself from a practitioner that was in my area. And she didn't know anything about me. She didn't know that my son had passed or anything. It's better not to know anything so that you have no agenda when you go in. And after the session, which was about a half an hour, my grief was lifted, and there was joy. There literally was joy. And it was a lightness. It was a feeling of just bliss. And I was absolutely, it was like a miracle. And I had a couple of other sessions. I flew to Chicago to learn how to do this, and I've been doing it now ever since. And I've come to find out that as you move your negative thought forms away from the core of who you are, the joy just comes up like a wellspring. So it's not something that you earn or you get through, that you put into. It's there. You just have to remove the cover, the shroud, the blanket, or whatever you call it, peeling the onion, and boom, there it comes.
Wow, it's very interesting, everything you said, because even in your bio, it's a few things you said that I didn't know. And I want to just get clear on a few things. I know you said your son took his life. Do you mind sharing, why did you guys maybe find out why, or what was behind that?
He observed me and my degeneration of my spine. He had to pick me up off the floor and put me to bed. I couldn't move, couldn't stand, couldn't walk. And, and I was doing all of this self-healing, taking an active part in my own healing because I had no insurance. So it was through necessity that, that I had to do this. My ex-husband is an orthopedic surgeon, so his influence on my son was have surgery. And so my son was suffered from an injury in skiing, and it was where his spine had fused together, and so he opted to have the surgery rather than do any, investigation as to any of the emotional things that are attached to losing the mobility of your spine. So he overdosed on pain medicine. He just couldn't stand the pain anymore because the surgeries really didn't work. He was still in a lot of pain. And the only way he could manage was through medication, and then he over-medicated, and that's how he passed. He had just graduated from college. And
well, I want to extend my condolences to you. I know that was a hard loss, and so I just definitely want to say that. And I know in between you, because you had already studied or started studying Huna when this happened, right?
Yes, I had been going. I never liked water. I was really afraid of water. I wasn't afraid to drive a race car or run a race or do all kinds of stunts on the earth, on the ground. But when it came to water, I never wanted to be near it. And so I had to fly to Hawaii to take advanced courses in hypnosis and past life regression. And here I am on an island surrounded with water. And so it was during the time when I was learning how to reach the higher self through breathing, through the Ha breath, which is also outlined in the book. And I experienced this entrance of dolphins and whales coming inside of me. And for someone who's never had dolphins and whales on their radar, it felt like an invasion of some kind of foreigners, And that night, they started teaching me how to swim in my dream time. I couldn't get rid of them. They were there. I was swimming. I'd wake up the next morning and I had this, desire to go out and be with them. And so I had to overcome that first fear of getting into the ocean and going into the water. And eventually, of course, they taught me how to swim and dive and feel nurtured by the water. And now I take people to Hawaii to swim with the dolphins and have been doing so for the last 20 years. And
the fear of water, and I know a lot of people have that, but that is something, my dad was in the Navy, so learning how to swim wasn't an option. So I'm not scared of water, but I know people, that are, and they're scared to swim. And so I guess when you don't have a fear of a certain thing, it's kind of hard to imagine other people being scared of that. Was it, but I can tell you, kudos for swimming in the ocean with dolphins, because I'm not scared of water, but if what I call wildlife start coming around me, that may be I may forget how to swim with that.
Well, it's this is a very protective bay. This is in Hawaii on the Big Island, and the dolphins have been coming there to these protected bays for hundreds of years. And once you look into their eyes and you receive their sonar through the water, it's as though all of your fears just dissipate. You get to rise to a higher level because the sonar, all we are is frequencies anyway. Our bodies are just levels of frequencies. And so they sonar you to let go of the lower density frequencies. And so all that's left is this feeling of unconditional love. You fall in love when you're there and you forget your fears. I've taken so many people now into these bays, and right away they kind of have a little trepidation, but as soon as they see the dolphins or the fish or the turtles, they lose that because it's a whole nother world, and they're very protected. It's very warm in the water, for one thing. It's almost 80 degrees, and it has to do with the emotions. Our emotions are in water. And so I think the fear comes from wanting to deal with some of these emotions that have been trapped in our bodies. I know that's what it was for me. And once these feelings come up and these memories come up and you're able to get the learnings from it and then let it go, you're a different person. You feel more joy. You feel more freedom, more liberation from what was holding you back.
Well, I'm going to add that to my 100. I guess it'll be 101 because I have a list of 100 lifetime goals, and I'm going to make that number 101 because it will be so I will connect with you and say, okay, I've done everything else. This is the last thing. And
I would be so honored
to take me.
It's a week at a time. I take people in September, the end of August, September, and it's a transformative journey, that's for sure. I drive for you. I cook for you. It's, we just do a lot of healing work. We swim every morning, and it's an amazing experience. This is my drug of choice. So I go there because they're my elixir. It's incredible.
And another thing you said before we even get into the quote-unquote interview part, I love that you didn't take what the doctors said as the end-all and be-all and looked into other options. And I think a lot of times as people, it's easier for us to accept what the doctors say is this is in concrete, this is in stone. I know recently, and this is the first time I'm actually sharing this, I haven't shared this publicly at all, but my grandmother went through some serious health issues in January, and the doctors basically said, we're done. There's nothing we can do. You're already, almost 80. Just prepare for the end, so to speak. And I say that to say I honestly accepted what the doctor said at that time. It's like, that's it. I have to, prepare to say goodbye. And, she's not going to see her next birthday. I immediately went to accepting what the doctor said, but I am proud to say today, happy birthday, Mama, if you're listening, because she made it, and she's in better health today than she has been in a while, and but it's because we started to look at those other factors, those other things that have to do with healing your body.
Well, you're in charge of your body. You're the one talking to your body, and your cells are listening. The cells of the nervous system, the brain is not just in your head. Your whole body is an intelligence. And so what you say to yourself, you're talking to the unconscious mind, which is running your body. Your conscious mind and your unconscious mind, they work together as a team. And when I found out that I was saying to myself, which caused my back to collapse, I was saying to myself for years unconsciously that I couldn't support myself. That's what I was told. My family had gone through the Depression. We were not wealthy people at all. And so I was raised with that feeling of lack. And, having to say that, I need support. I can't support myself. So when you're saying that to the part of you, which is your spine, that is your support, eventually it listens to you and it does exactly what you've told it to do, and it collapses. So I had to rethink and readjust my verbiage. What you say to yourself is instrumental as to how your body is going to react physically. As soon as I started to say, I'm sorry, I thank you for supporting me, I know that you can support me, do a good job, every day that became my mantra. And you begin to reassemble your languaging to it and your gratitude to the part of you that you're switching around. Of course, I did other things. Memories came up, of lack of support, of abandonment, and all those are in my book. and I had to let go of those memories as well. But whenever I see a tree, with a strong, a redwood tree, I go up and I rub against the tree with my back, thanking it for mimicking that tree, supporting me as strong as that tree does. So every time you get a chance, you look to nature or whatever and just thank your body part for remembering how to heal.
We definitely.
That's how you take responsibility.
That's what I was going to ask you about, but I wanted to say we definitely underestimate the power of our mind when it comes to our physical health. But I tell people, if you look at, the average driveway with the concrete, you're going to see a flower come through the concrete. You're going to see weeds. You're going to see things less strong physically. They're not as strong as the human body, and yet they push through the concrete. Right.
That's right. It's a good analogy.
Yay. I love analogies. Because it's so, I think a lot of times we don't look at that as people. We'll see the obstacle. We'll see the concrete, so to speak, without appreciating the fact that this flower or the grass or weeds or whatever was determined enough to break through, that it broke through concrete.
Right.
And so I love looking at nature and seeing the power of things that's just doing what they're supposed to do.
And the other thing about doctors, about listening always, I know television totally tells you, ask your doctor, ask your doctor. Well, many doctors have not been taught about the spirit and how things are run, or giving responsibility back to the patient to, allow them to talk to their body and to heal themselves. They're not taught that in school. I was married to a doctor. He knew nothing about nutrition. I was allergic to milk products, and I never knew that, and I was always sick with, sinus infections and all this, and didn't learn that until after I, got on my own and found out that my body couldn't handle milk products. And then all of a sudden I got better. So a lot of things are related to you having to find out on your own what the environment, how the environment influences you, how the food that you put in your mouth influences you, not only the thoughts, but everything. It's a full-time job to be conscious.
I'm going to have to write that one down. That is one. That's a good one. It's thinking work to think. It's definitely to be aware and to be conscious of. Yeah, I love.
But
I'm
remember
gonna have to write that
down. I had to learn that the conscious mind has your free will. You're always in charge of free will, but it has no connection to the higher self, to the higher part of you. You have to get the memories from the unconscious mind that is running your body and storing all of these. You have to allow them to come up and to get learnings from them and let them go. And then when the pipeline to your higher self is free and clear, you can get excited about your healing. Like for me, when I was doing my healing, I finally let go of a lot of memories that were in my way and gumming up the pipeline. After I got those out of the way, then I would start seeing myself climbing trees. And I used to climb trees as a child. I loved climbing trees and escaping the adults, in the neighborhood. And so you have to have a strong back to climb trees. So I would get my unconscious mind really excited about climbing trees again. And then the unconscious is the key to send that thought form up to the higher self, which brings it down into your physical body. And that's exactly what happened. I healed after doing that for like several days. I healed completely.
Visualization is a powerful tool, definitely.
Well, it wasn't just visualization, though. I was feeling it. I was feeling how excited I was. I had the emotion. I didn't just see a picture of me climbing trees. I felt what it felt like to really be able to climb a tree again. It's an emotional attachment. And that's what the unconscious mind is. It's like a little animal that is just your emotional body. It holds all your emotions for lifetimes. They're all buried somewhere into the body.
When we talk about taking personal responsibility for your joy, what exactly does that mean?
Well, just like I have said, I took responsibility for having the thought form that I wasn't supporting myself, that my spine couldn't support me. So I changed my thoughts. I changed my diet. I had to do something myself to take responsibility. That gave me an active role in my healing. I could feel like I could do something. I wasn't just a puppet on a string. And since I didn't have the option of having surgery, I really wanted to see if this, Huna was going to work, because I knew it was helping other people. But when you have to do it to yourself, it's that old adage, physician, heal thyself. What are your issues? What are you holding back on that is stopping you from living this joyful life? And it's a process. It's a process. You can't beat yourself up if you don't find it, but at least you give it that old, I don't want to even say the word try, but you do something. And so that's taking responsibility. And that's the Huna way. You have to be able to accept that you're at cause for everything that happens to you in your life. And if you can accept that you're at cause and not at the effect, then that's the very first part of the Huna. And to lead a hurtless life. So you wouldn't say anything to hurt yourself. You wouldn't say anything to hurt somebody else. Those are the two big, acceptances of the Huna way. And, if you do it, you're rewarded. If not, there's other ways.
So, Ms. Belinda,
yes.
What is your definition? How would you define joy?
Oh, it's a lightness of being. It's being in the present time where there's nothing else but just this moment right now. So you don't feel, I don't feel any encumberment, nothing heavy on my shoulders. I just feel playful. It's just like a bliss, like a feeling of bliss, fun.
Of being weight-free. Weight,
yeah. Yes, yeah. A lot of people have a heavy burden, or they're carrying heavy responsibilities, or they feel that the weight of the world is on their shoulders. And, that's not bliss. But I have to work at it. I mean, it's not something that stays with me. I have, the Hawaiians called it, you attach yourself to things and then you get corded again. They're like webs, like spider webs, or just cords that wrap around you if you do not cut your cords every day, if you don't forgive yourself every day from these cords. And so I do that whenever I'm feeling like sad, or I allow myself to feel the sadness, but I don't let it stay with me for a long time, or anger or hurt or guilt or any of that. I forgive myself, and you can do that yourself. There's 3 little phrases. It's I'm just sorry, and you're saying this to your higher self, to the higher part of you. I love you. I forgive you. Thank you. And that's all you have to do. You can use those words all during the day, and you'll start feeling better.
So
you start feeling.
You go through that, because I know just from my personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of the audience can relate. I have what I call everything and nothing days. So let's say on Monday, for instance, I feel light as a feather. The world couldn't be more perfect. Like everything is right in the world. I'm feeling joyous. And then I call that a nothing day, because I'm feeling nothing but joy. And then on Tuesday, it's a everything day. It's like everything's wrong. Everything's bothering me. It's like the complete opposite of joy. How do I bounce back from that? How do I regroup from that? Saying those personal statements?
Right. Well, visually, you can see that person down below you on like a stage, and this is just a perception that you have that everything is negative on Tuesday. And you can look down at that person and just see her all shrouded up with cords. She could look like a mummy, all dressed up in cords and all those negative thought forms that are wrapping around her. And then you just say to yourself, it's your choice. I'm sorry. I love you. I forgive you. Thank you. And then you can kind of shake your body around, and then with your hand just see that image of you floating away. And you do it, you keep doing it until you feel neutral, or at least a little more neutral. Because why can't you feel joy on Tuesday if you felt it on Monday? That is your choice, right?
Good question. That's sometimes it's an emotional weight. If we talk about joy as feeling weightless, and I think it's almost like I choose not to deal with anything days. Those are the days I feel the most joy, where I'm just like, I love me too much to deal with anything that doesn't make me happy today. And I can make that choice. But I think a lot of times, we push everything, let's say I'll just push whatever comes up Monday negative. I push it till deal with it later, which ends up Tuesday, and then Tuesday I'm feeling ridiculously heavy. Is it more helpful just to deal with it when it comes up on Monday?
Yes. See, your unconscious mind is about 2 years old. It's running your body. You're not telling your heart to beat. Your cells are, they're multiplying. All your body functions are going on without you having any awareness of it. So the unconscious mind is also responsible for storing all your memories over lifetimes. So you have stuff that's in there from this lifetime, from past lives, and it can be very heavy. And the little unconscious mind is trying to run your body based on the blueprint that it has now, with all this stuff that's holding it back. There may be a lot of anger around the heart. Who knows what the pancreas is feeling, the colon, the stomach, the brain cells. Who knows? Unless you give permission for some of this thing, it's like a Pandora's box. And it does come up and things fly out of it. But remember, you're always in a different place right now. You're not that person that made those decisions at that time. Maybe you were a little girl, maybe, all kinds of things happened when you didn't have the tools that you have now to deal with it. So if you allow yourself to let that stuff come up, and you can see it or feel it or get some closure from it, put a period on it, and then the unconscious mind would love to just let it go. It just goes away like all energy. And then you are freer. You're freer. If you can understand that, then when the issue comes up, instead of, a lot of people anesthetize themselves. They'll go get a drink. They'll go shopping. They'll do anything but deal with what is causing the pain inside of them. And if they only did that, it would let go. Does that make sense?
It makes a whole lot of sense. I think definitely that answer right there helped a lot of people, including me, because I think happiness or joy in the moment, anything that would affect that moment, that nothing, that bliss that I'm feeling, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to push it to the side. And I think what happens when we do that is that thing that bothers us comes back like 150, like comes back stronger. So then versus if we actually deal with it when it first came up.
Right. And sometimes we don't know how to deal with it. When I was flat on my back with my back, I went to see a homeopathist, and she was an osteopath, and she gave me some snake venom to take. And it was just a tiny, tiny little pill, but it allowed some memories to come up from the lower spine. And what came up for me is that I had been, as a fetus, just kind of tossed out into this abyss, like a piece of garbage. And this little baby was just thrown into the universe and dodging all of these meteorites and asteroids, and it was very frightening. I thought I was dying. And then finally these amazing healing hands came in and picked me up and put me safely in the hands of some other divine being that was on a higher precipice, and I could look down at all the chaos below me. And finally I, woke up, or whatever I did. I thought it was like a near-death experience. And I confronted my mother and about my birth. And she had not told me until that time then that I had been taken to 3 abortion clinics, that my father wanted me aborted. And they refused to do it because she was too far along. But the fetus hears that and feels that abandonment, or feels that they're not wanted. And so I was raised with that little cell, I guess, and I had to try to, work harder to try to earn people's love. And so I was always just trying to do more. I couldn't just be myself. And that was a huge thing to let go of, because I realized at that moment that I was loved far beyond any human could love me. I was loved by the divinity.
Wow.
And then deeper healing took place with that. So we don't know about those things until we're flat on our backs maybe, and vulnerable, and able to say, okay, whatever comes up now is going to come up, or else we don't have time. And they get pushed back down. If that hadn't come up, I wouldn't have written my book. So many things would not have taken place. It really kind of put some closure on a lot of issues.
When your mom shared that with you, did it seem like it made other issues, all of a sudden it was like, okay, everything else makes sense now?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, I was not really wanted at that time. I was her first sexual experience. And so, my father married her, but they didn't stay married for long. I mean, they just, they did it because they had to. And, I guess I beat the odds coming in, but I had to do that. This was my soul's journey. But I can see why she was not real excited about having me, or you feel things, that you're just not, you weren't her first choice. But she was happy once I was there. I had a lot of love from my family, after I was there, but I still felt I had to earn it.
What are some, okay, I know we touched on Huna, and for those who, like me, that never heard of it before, if you could just tell us a little bit more about that, like how did you even find out about it?
Well, when I was going to Hawaii to learn about advanced hypnosis and past life regression, some of the Hawaiians came in and introduced us to a beginning course in Huna. They chanted. The chants were something that just seemed to, I just had this feeling of, primitive truth. It's like hearing the drums or hearing any kind of ancient tonal patterns. You go back to a primitive time of truth. And they taught us how to do the what's called ho'oponopono, to make right. This was the forgiveness process of putting things down below you and telling yourself that you're sorry and I forgive you. You're forgiving yourself for holding on to that agenda with that person, and then it releases and it heals on a very high level. And I started doing these things, and they felt good, and it started working. And I like things that work. So it's the proof is in the pudding. So that's how I learned about Huna, and then I studied it. Max Freedom Long is a gentleman. He's a teacher who went to the island in 1917, and he was just going to go there for a year or so and teach. And he observed these kahunas doing all of these amazing healing things, and nothing was written down. And so he wanted to know, why isn't this written down? And they had no written language really at the time. There was just chants and drumming and the hula, the dances. So he started observing. He was there for 40 years, and he's written all of these books on the art of Huna, the magic of Huna. And I studied his books, and that's how I learned how to do it on myself.
What are some healing practices that you've learned from not only from Huna but throughout life? What's something we can easily apply to our own life today?
Well, I think being grateful for even the littlest things, because I remember when I lost my son and lost my money, and I had, you really are stripped to the bare bones. I would still be grateful that I wanted to preserve my health because I didn't want to be a burden to my daughter. My daughter took me in and allowed me to stay at her house, and I took over the care of my grandson, and that really saved me. That little boy, that I had to be there for every single day was my joy. And being grateful, I think, is one of the most powerful tools. You could just be joyful for breathing another day, for, having the friends that you have, being able to walk, or whatever it is. Gratitude just melts everything away that's negative. And then I have the forgiveness practice that I do daily. Without that, I don't think I would be very happy. And it's so easy because you just say, something comes up and you just say, I'm sorry. I love you. You're saying I love you to yourself. I forgive you. You're forgiving yourself for the agenda that you've had with that person, and you can put them down below you and see them there. And then thank you. And then cut the cords. You can take a knife, scissors. I have a CD that's called Chant and Forgiveness, and it's on my website, and it takes people through that forgiveness process. So it's in the book, and it's also on a CD that I made 20 years ago.
Wow. And that's on Huna, HUNA healing.com, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yay.
Yay.
So I know, because I definitely want to make sure, because in 2 seconds we're going to get into the book, because number one, I love the title of the book. So we'll get into that in a second. But I wanted to ask you really quick, because I know you're trained in hypnotherapy. Me and that word, that's what I call one of the words I battle with or I fight with, that and entrepreneurial. For some reason, those words, that's before 2017 is over, I'm going to pronounce those two words like a pro. because I have had a lot of contact recently with people that practice or trained in or deal with hypnotherapy in some way, shape, or form. And I wanted to ask, okay, if you want to like give a brief, like a sentence or just for those who don't know what hypnotherapy is, if you want to just explain that real quick.
It's a therapy of going inside and talking to the unconscious. Remember I said the unconscious is about 2 years old. And learning what the unconscious does, it's in charge of our emotional body. It's in charge of making our whole body run. And if you can be in rapport with the unconscious mind, which is like about a 2-year-old, then you can accept suggestions to change your bad habits. A hypnotherapist will allow you to go into the unconscious where all change takes place and rewire you so that if somebody's afraid of spiders or afraid of crossing bridges or afraid of flying, they can rewire that so that you can say, I'm just going to go take a wonderful flight and get over to my destination, and I'm going to have a good time from, being afraid to even walk into an airplane. So that's where hypnosis comes in, is that it changes the wiring, and it does so at the deep unconscious level where change takes place. It doesn't change place consciously. You'll find out when you're looking at television, the advertisers know exactly how to hypnotize you. Buy their product, do this, whispering things to you, because that's what the unconscious mind listens to. It listens to little whispers or little catch things. And if you can, accept the suggestion from a hypnotherapist, and they're really good, you can stop smoking, you can, lose weight, do all those things. But it's all done at the deep unconscious level. You talk to it differently than you would your conscious mind.
I may have to try it, because I know this is kind of like off topic, but it has to do with hypnotherapy, because I may need to try it, because my whole life, I'm pretty much not scared of anything to where I would like run, scream, cry bloody murder, except lizards.
Really?
I have, and I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from. I have always been like deathly afraid of lizards, and it's like always. Like one time at 3:00 in the morning, I saw a lizard in the house. I was on the kitchen counter. I screamed so loud, my neighbors were ready to call the police.
Oh my God. Yeah. So see if you could get with a hypnotherapist, or you would see the lizard, and then you would just say, it's just a lizard. That's fine. Won't hurt me. And you'd say that to yourself instead of going into the panic, which you presently seem to do.
Yeah. What's the level above panic? Because I think that's the level I'm like
hysteria.
That sounds like the description of what, and I know, like I understand. Okay, this is a lizard. It can't hurt me. It can't do anything to me. But I have cats. I don't even like cats. Like I'm a dog person, but I have cats because I know if a lizard gets in the house, the cats are going to get the lizard.
Yeah, they love moving objects. I have too. But it's interesting because I was always afraid of water. I wouldn't even put my head underneath water. I didn't want to go in a swimming pool. I would hold my kids' coats for them while they went on water slides. So for me to turn this around, and you can pivot around as well, and see yourself not responding, and also saying a different word to yourself. See, that's how consciously you get involved with it. And so instead of saying this panics me or this, you can be concerned about lizards and start neutralizing the way you tell people you respond to the lizards. They concern me. It's a lot more gentle, and you'll calm your nervous system down when you just that shift, right?
Yeah, I have to work on that. I said I'll post like lizard updates on social media. Like one time I posted a picture, they had 3 lizards by the door, and I was outside walking the dog, and I said, I don't know when I'm going inside the house. They're waiting for me. And I said, no. It is like it is serious. Yeah. I call it my lizard chronicles. I've tried to mace a lizard before. I've thrown a whole bottle of water on a lizard before that was like on the door. I was like, okay, it's time to deal with this lizard thing. So that you guys look for the me getting over my lizard fear special, because before the year is out, I have to, because it's ridiculous. Like, I could not come in the house. This was just the other day because they had 3 lizards above the door.
Oh, and see, in Hawaii, we have these little geckos. Right. And they're bright green, and we let them in the house because they eat the bugs. You know, they'll catch bugs or mosquitoes or things, and they also bring good luck. And when they hear something that is of a truth, of a higher truth, they'll make a noise. So if you say, so like I'm in the process of doing some healing work on a client, and then all of a sudden I hear or something like that, you know that it's some great truth that's happening. They're really beautiful little animals.
So taking personal responsibility for my joy with dealing with lizards, so to speak, maybe I'll say, okay, they're good luck, and try to
they bring good luck, yes.
Okay, they bring good luck. Because I believe that about ladybugs, you know, like they're, you know, you've always heard ladybugs, so now I got to work on the lizard. I'll keep you guys posted.
Well, the lizard is just a giant ladybug.
We're going to work on that for 2017. I want to get, and I know we're have 8 minutes, but we've hit so many topics. You are so interesting. I love it. And I've learned how to potentially deal with my lizard issue.
Yes.
Your
that's
book,
wonderful.
Find Your, is it Friggin? Say it for me.
It's Friggin. It's Friggin Joy. Right. Just
Number
find your
1.
Friggin Joy already. You know, just stop talking about it. Just find it. It's right there.
How did you come up with the title?
I say my higher self is the one that gave it to me. You know, sometimes we have things that come just out of our mouths and we don't know where they came from. Mm-hmm. I was in Hawaii, and this was years ago, and I had a facilitator that was helping me with my groups that I brought to Hawaii for swimming with the dolphins. And she was very serious all the time. She was a practicing Buddhist, and we were watching the waves splashing against the rocks, and this turtle was kind of trapped in the rocks and couldn't get out of the waves. And, she was lamenting about this turtle, and she was just saying, this poor, poor turtle. And all of a sudden I just blurted out, Tricia, would you just find your friggin' joy? And she burst out laughing. I've never heard her laugh so hard in all my life. And I never forgot that. It brought her out of this sadness or whatever, and it just took her to another level. And that's what I want to do with this book, is take people to another level so they can find their joy.
Love it. Love it. And that's basically what the book helps them do, find their freaking joy already.
That's right. If they are willing to take responsibility and they're willing to take an active role in their healing. If not, it may not be for them. But it gives you your power back. And I really like to empower people so that, you're not at somebody else's mercy, telling you that you have, 6 months to live. They don't know. What if they had 6 years? It's all up to them. It's up to their spirit to decide, what's going to happen.
Wow.
It's not that I don't approve of doctors. I think there's a place for all different kinds of modalities. Western medicine, Eastern medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and there's just so much available that you can investigate and get the information before you commit to something. And if it works, bless you. You got to do what works.
And there's so much out there, so many different cultures, and there's there's more than one way to cook rice.
Yes.
And
right.
The goal is to have rice. So however you get there, it may not work this way or that way. So I think we all need to open ourselves up to the possibilities and to other things versus what we grew up learning.
That's right.
I want to thank you so much for opening me up, especially helping me deal with my concern with lizards.
You're already changing. That's wonderful.
I believe in applying knowledge right away. I'm definitely working on that. Miss Belinda, how can the listeners connect with you and find out about the book and get the book? What's the best way to do that?
The book is on Amazon. It's also on my website, which is the Huna, HUNA, healing.com. And under Spiritual Journeys is the whole brochure on the dolphin trip, which is coming up the end of August and first 3 weeks of September. So if they're interested in that, and also the CDs are there too, so they can listen to the chants. And the chants are very healing, especially the chant in forgiveness, because it takes you through that forgiveness process with yourself. And that's what it's all about, is healing yourself to find that friggin' joy.
Yay. Which is one of my favorite. Yay is probably the number one of my favorite words. That's my joy. That's how I express my joy, with the word yay. So
when you see that next lizard, when you see your next lizard, you're going to shout, yay. Yay.
Oh, I promise. I'm concerned about the lizard. Yay. I'm gonna keep you guys posted on my lizard journey. My concern with lizards, I will start, instead of screaming bloody murder, I'm just gonna holler yay really loud. So I'm gonna start working that into
find the beauty in the lizard, because the lizard has never really been focused on as a thing of beauty. And when you can see beauty in something that's not so beautiful, you're bringing that into yourself. We're just a mirror image. So finding that beauty is, lessening
instead of terrifying.
The concern. Right. It's a mirror looking back at you.
I'm going to work on all these things, Miss Belinda. That is my 2017 goal, because I cannot let something roughly the size of my hand have me standing on the counter. That's right. I'm a little too old to be standing on a counter behind a lizard. So I will definitely work on that. Guys, stay posted to the Lizard Chronicles.
Oh, funny. Well, I think you're beautiful, and I totally support this endeavor, the Yay Lizard endeavor.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Belinda, for coming on tonight and helping us just take personal responsibility, not just for our joy, but just for a whole lot. You gave so much in tonight's show, and I just really want to thank you for that.
Well, it was my honor, and I just am grateful that I got to meet you and your audience.
Yay. Well,
Yay.
Make sure you guys get the book, Find Your Friggin, however you want to say it, Joy. And yes, and connect with Miss Belinda at www.hunahealing.com. The website will be posted in the show notes and also on Define You Radio's Facebook page. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show so you can get all the updates as we start to unleash, as we're turning one shortly. The next two shows I'm excited to announce are my first ever pre-recorded shows, because you guys know I'm taking an epic vacation / road trip / speaking engagement in Canada, which is one of the things on my 100 lifetime goals is a road trip across America. So I will keep you guys posted with that. And I said I couldn't leave you guys hanging, hence the recorded shows. So I hope you enjoyed that. Stay posted. Stay connected with the show. I'm excited. And make sure you guys let me know your thoughts at Define You Radio's Facebook page. As usual, I'm going to close with a quote. It's from Russell Nelson. The joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances of our lives and everything to do with the focus of our lives. With that being said, guys, happy Sunday. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much again, Miss Belinda.
Thank you.
It's what I've always wanted.
Steve's got the stars.
Got a big old cushy chair. It's nice.
Today, Premiere Week keeps rolling with late-night legend Jay Leno.
How about that?
Plus, Jordan Sparks. And coming Friday, Charlie Sheen and a performance by Leanne Rimes.
It's all new, and it's gonna be big.
And it's all on Steve.
New York, weekdays at 2 on NBC4, New York. It's what I've always wanted.
Steve's got the stars.
Got a big old cushy chair. It's nice.
Today, Premiere Week keeps rolling with late-night legend Jay Leno.
How about that?
Plus, Jordan Sparks. And coming Friday, Charlie Sheen and a performance by Leanne Rimes.
It's all new, and it's gonna be big.
And it's all on Steve.
New York, weekdays at 2 on NBC4, New York.